Hey everybody, and welcome back to the GalacticGonks YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be doing a deck tech video on my Yoda cunning list that I play here locally. I've picked it up ever since we stopped doing the store showdowns and our more tournament-based events. It's been my fun deck. I kind of picked it up just because it has a lot of Jedis in it, and I enjoy using those units for the restore, for the abilities, and stuff like that. So I'm going to run through everything that I have in here, and we're going to just talk about some of the high points. I run the level 1313 base. As you see on the next portion, I've named the base, or named the deck list, the Jedi Training Grounds. On Coruscant, I in my brain like to think that they're battling it out with the bad guys on Coruscant, catching the criminals and stuff like that on level 1313. So that's why I chose the base. I run 3 Hotshot Blasters, 3 Grogus, 3 Padawan Starfighters, and 3 R2-D2s as my low drops. I run 2 Concord Dawn Interceptors for a Sentinel in space, since we still have a bunch of space-heavy decks currently in the meta, 2 Ezra Bridgers, and 2 Millennium Falcons. Millennium Falcons is kind of a unit that I go into that many people don't expect to be in there, but it comes in ready, so it's nice to clear out something in space, pick it back up, and then remove all the damage off of it. I run 3 Yodas and 3 Now There Are 2 of Them, as well as 3 You're My Only Hope and 3 Kanan Jarrus. Great units, great events. Having restore for 2 units, having your opponent discard a card, and then having the combos that I'll go over for the deck as well with the Now There Are 2 of Them and You're My Only Hope is a lot of fun to have with the deck list itself. For removal, I have Fell the Dragon, Takedown, just 2 of each of those, not too heavy on the removal side. I like units a lot. Then I run 3 I call him Peyton Manning, but 3 Ki-Adi-Mundis, 3 Obi-Wan Zathor Sprites, 3 Plo Koons, and then 3 Obi-Wans, 3 Luke Skywalkers, and 2 Redemptions, and the main deck itself. Turn 1 plays, I run the Padawan Starfighter, R2-D2, and Grogu. They're in there because of a couple of reasons. For Grogu, he's Force. That's the huge thing with having Now There Are 2 of Them, having the trait of Force. You're able to get cards out early with the trait on the card itself. Same way with R2-D2 and the Padawan Starfighter. R2-D2 having Republic is really huge, and then for the Padawan Starfighter, having the Jedi and Republic as well is really big. And plus his ability of being any Force unit like Grogu himself. Any Force unit getting a +1/+1 for the ship is wonderful, because you can trade with a lot of stuff that is running in the Django decks, and sometimes even like in Sabine with the Wing Leader, or with another unit that they may put out there. Combos. With this deck, it's very combo oriented. You have the Now There Are 2 of Them, like I mentioned before. You can run it, and you can go into the Padawan Starfighter, R2-D2, and Grogu to pull cards out on the second turn with 3 resources like Plo Koon, Ki-Adi-Mundi, and Kanan Jarrus. Having Plo Koon come out at 5 resources, or a cost of 5 on 3 resources, is huge. You're clearing a unit with the ambush of 3, and you still have, more often than not, 3 health to go. Same way with Ki-Adi-Mundi. A 5/7 with only 3 resources is wonderful. And then if you're stuck in a bind and you want to still do the combination and get it out, you can also go ahead and get a Kanan Jarrus out there on the field, which a lot of people still can't deal with that early in the game. Yoda's action and his epic action. His action himself is what we're doing all these combos with. You're able to, when a unit leaves play, you're able to look at the top card of your deck, either keep that card or put another card from your hand on the top or bottom of that deck, of your deck. That's huge. You can set up stuff like crazy, putting, a second Padawan Starfighter on the bottom of the deck, and then drawing into a Ki-Adi-Mundi to know, okay, now I can play Now There Are 2 of Them to play Ki-Adi-Mundi early is wonderful. Same way with doing Yoda's ability whenever he's deployed. Let's say they have a Darth Vader on the field, and you have to remove it. You can go ahead and maybe put a Luke on top and remove the Luke. It's not the best play to do, but if in a bind, it's wonderful, because you're able to remove the Darth Vader, which is a big threat on the enemy's side, or your opponent's side, and then you're able to have Yoda go in and swing for 2 on top of already having that unit removed. So that's really big, and it's the same cost or less as the card that you flip. So it can be, like, let's say if all else fails, they have a Pershing that's been putting a lot of work in and drawing a lot of cards. You can just go in and put in a Grogu on top of your deck, and then remove their Pershing, and be able to clear their board that way. The combos that I mentioned before with Yoda's action is a lot of fun. You can do You're My Only Hope. On 4 resources, you can go ahead and put on top of your deck a Plo Koon, Ki-Adi-Mundi, an Obi-Wan Kenobi, or even Obi-Wan's Aether Sprite, and play those units just at 1 cost, which is great. On 4 resources, putting out an Obi-Wan Kenobi is huge for a lot of opponents because they can't get through the Obi-Wan without maybe 1 or 2 units, and then you're able to give another unit 2 experience tokens and draw a card if it's Force. So you're already growing your hand size and you're building up your board presence with more units, having a lot more damage to be dealt on into your opponent's base. And then same way with on 5 resources, you can go in and put a Luke Skywalker down. On 5 resources, a Luke Skywalker at 6/6/6 to an opponent is like deadening to their gameplay a lot of the times. So it's a great way to get ahead in the match and to, you know, change the way the game is going to where it's more in your favor and less into theirs. Some of the events and removal I do run, like I mentioned before, I run 3 of the Hotshot Blasters, 2 takedowns, and 2 Fellow Dragons in the main board. Fellow Dragon is one I added recently. It's come in clutch, having, like I said, the Darth Vader on the other side, or even having the Snokes that I've encountered, or Crate Dragons and a couple of the Bosca Green decks that I've played against. Has been really good to have that removal show up and, you know, clear the board for me. Takedowns, of course, in there. It's great to remove Child Sins. It's great to remove Sabine and, you know, units that have 5 health or less. And then, of course, Hotshot. It's like the gimmick card in the deck, but it's also a really good card in the deck because of the smuggle ability being a cunning smuggle. You're able to swing once you put it onto a unit for +2 attack. And with all the units that are usually in the deck list that I have, they all have restore, so I'm able to go in and restore quickly and do extra damage on top of that. And a lot of the times the opponents don't know how to overcome. Like, let's say I put it on Luke, he's now swinging for 8. I put it on Yoda, he's either swinging for 4 or the leader Yoda swinging for 6. Still restoring anywhere between 2, 2, and 3 respectively through units is great. It's a great way to change the way the game has gone, and for you and for your opponent to start rethinking a lot of things. On the sideboard, I have 2 Rivals Fall, 2 Perilous, and 2 Sparker Rebellions. Now, 2 Rivals Fall are in there just in case I go into something like a controlled matchup where I got to remove their Avengers, or I need to remove a Devastator, or even, let's say, like the leader of Palpatine or something like that. Even having the Rivals Fall for a Django matchup is wonderful too, because they flip it. You have to get the 7 to deploy Yoda, which is a lot longer in a lot of games, but it seems to go by quick with this one. But whenever you go into the 6 resource turn, if you don't have a card to play, you can remove Django, you know, to keep that damage coming, and then whenever Yoda comes out, you can flip him to defeat. Let's say you have another one in hand, you can put the card on top and defeat like a Fet Fire Spray, or defeat a Ruthless Raider, and then have Yoda, you know, come out and start restoring for you. Perilous Position is the same way for a lot of those decks to remove the space units, and then of course Sparker Rebellion is a great way to, you know, stall your opponent out for at least 1 or 2 turns. This is the cards in the sideboard. I run 2 of everything. 2 Sparker Rebellions, 2 Ahsoka Tano's, 2 Perilous, 2 Rivals Fall, and 2 Tranquility. Now, Tranquility is something I've been trying out. I love it. Having the Republic aspect is what I'm able to do. We're looking at cards like R2-D2, Ki-Adi-Mundi, Plo Koon, Obi-Wan's Aether Sprite, and then if you put in Ahsoka Tano into the deck, you're getting those cards playing for 1 less. So you can play a Tranquility, return, let's say, a Plo Koon from earlier in the game. On the next turn, swing with Tranquility. Now you can play Plo Koon for 1 less, or even play R2-D2 at a 1 cost to get, like, to go through 3 cards in the top of your deck and then draw one that might be better. Like, you're at 8 cards, so you can play an R2-D2 for 1, look at the top 3, find a Luke Skywalker, and play it for the 7, and you already now have a Tranquility and a R2-D2 and a Luke Skywalker on your deck, on your base, or on your field. And you're able to do a lot of clearance and a lot of restore whenever it comes to the next turn. Of course, Rivals Fall, like I mentioned, and Perilous and Spark, as I've covered what they do in the deck list, and it's, you know, really good to have those in there. And Ahsoka Tano, whenever you control less than your opponent, you have Ambush. Now, a lot of the times, if you go into control matchup, this is kind of great because you can play an R2-D2, they can play, if they choose to, another unit like Dr. Pershing's, and then you go into the next turn, either they play a Power of the Dark Side, you can then have that card remove an ambush and clear, put a lot of damage onto a unit, and then you can go in and use her Jedi Force and Republic traits to, now there are 2 of them, into something bigger whenever we move into the next turn with like 4 resources. So all those cards have been great. But there are changes that I've looked into and might be willing to try out, and then for this set that we have for sets 1, 2, and 3, and then for what's to come. And those cards are Luminara, which, having the grit and having a 4/9 unit, is really decent in my mind. Having Waylay, I didn't think about it at first, but I saw a deck list that finished in the top 30 in a PQ, and they were running Waylay, and it made a lot of sense in my mind because you're able to return an opponent's hand, or return a unit, either yours or your opponent's, and use Yoda's action to look through your cards once again to get the best card for the next turn. Tech, I don't know why I haven't run him. Probably need to. It'll be nice, even if it's just like the Hotshot Blasters where it's an automatic restore. Or not a restore, a resource. It's probably great for the gameplay that I have. That way I can put him down and then get to him and other units later. It would be probably a wonderful thing to put in the deck list, which I'll probably start trying out here soon. Mystic Reflection is another card, because since I run almost primarily all Force units, giving the -2/-2 to a unit, once again, with all the space decks we have out there, is probably a card I need to be looking heavy into to have a little bit more removal when it comes to the, to the gameplay and stuff like this, gameplay and board state and so on. And then the newest ones that I've been looking at are, Ahsoka Tano for the new set, Anakin Skywalker, and Sabine's Masterpiece. Ahsoka Tano coming in, it's the win played, an opponent discards a top card from their an opponent discards a card from their hand, and if it's a unit, you may exhaust a unit. That's already great, because you're able to go in and exhaust something that could be swinging, quickly, or that, is giving them cards like a Pershing. You're able to go in and install that gameplay right there. Anakin Skywalker, having him as a 2/3, which has the traits of being a Force unit, is great once again for now there are 2 of them, because I can play him, and then I can play, once again, like we talked about, doing the Kiadi-Mundis or Plo Koons, or even another Kanan Jarrus early on into the next turn, or even with the new deck list and Ahsoka Tano going into the next turn. And then as well, I can put him on a space unit, so I can put him in a Padawan Starfighter to make it a 4 attack because it's a Force unit. That's crazy, having that unit as a common, printed card that not many people were looking at become a 4 attack power space unit with Anakin Skywalker in there. So that would be really cool to see. And then Sabine's Masterpiece is just already great as it is. It's a 3 for 3/3. But then on the attack, if I have a blue unit, which I run blue, quite heavy in the deck, I can heal 2 damage from my base, and I can ready up a resource on turn 4. I can swing in, play a unit for 1, or play a unit for 2, and then ready up a resource and play a 3. So I could even just go in and start doing You're My Only Hope and start playing a lot of stuff and make my board state even wider than before. So looking forward to it. This is, like I said, a deck that I just enjoy playing, and I have a lot of fun playing it. It's something that I just put together. I saw it do really well early on in the year at SCGCon Columbus, and I really liked the idea of it and the premise behind it of having all the Force users and all the Jedis, and it was really on my list and radar of things to try out, because I've always looked for a Jedi list that I can play that plays all of the Jedi itself. And it's looking like it'll be a list that I continue to grow and to continue to build and play around with at locals. And even, if it gets to a point where it becomes pretty, a common occurrence of me doing pretty well with it, might start taking it to some tournaments here and there. I normally finish with about a 2-1 record at locals, which is great. Having matchups that I sometimes have a struggle with, which is more often than not Control. The removal on their end is a lot harder for me to get past. But I've played a couple games against Han Cunning. It's done pretty well. It comes down to, usually like who has the last two actions, and then that's pretty much game. I've done really well against Django. Having the restore no matter what is wonderful, because you make your opponent choose which restore they want to get rid of. But if you can go wide and a little bit faster, like they'll play their triple dark raid, I'll play You're My Only Hope, and we're both sitting there with units that are doing a lot of damage, but I get to keep mine. It's a really cool, experience to see that go through and learn how to play the game, how to grow your board state, how to mix it between aggro and between mid range, and then being able to swing in. And I love, giving a blaster to Yoda and watching him swing to the base and restore damage is just really cool. So it's a deck list, like I said, that I'm going to continue to build and continue to work on, and hopefully in the future it becomes something that a lot of people find competitive. If you have any questions about the list and or questions about lists you would like to see that we play locally here in our store showdowns, or even in our local, on Monday nights and Tuesday nights we play locally in our stores, just put in the comments below what you'd like to see. But please like and subscribe, and if you have any questions, just let us know. Thank you.